Watching the same show or playing the same video game over and over is often a coping mechanism of people struggling with anxiety or depression. When I first heard that, I thought, that's interesting. Then I thought about it a little more. Wait, am I depressed? I have a hard time playing new video games these days. When the day is done and I turn on my PC, the fans begin to hum, the RGB begins to flash in the dark, and my mediocre desk chair lets out a groan as I sink into its cheap leather padding. It feels like I can breathe deeply for the first time of the day. Anxiety washing out as I find respite in my place of comfort. There are a multitude of activities, places, and people that can bring that feeling as well. But since I was 16 and my now late best friend helped me build my first gaming PC, I don't know if I can think of a single thing that has constantly helped me find comfort in the same way. At this point, I've been playing the Elder Scrolls for nearly 17 years. Clearly, it's time for something new. Right? The world is my oyster. Millions of games at my fingertips. Competitive games. Well, Call of Duty isn't fun anymore because at the ripe age of 30, trying to play COD is like watching my dad work his smartphone. I mean, technically he knows how to use it, but it doesn't mean it's not hard to watch.
Look how cute he is. And he's trying to shoot with a smoke grenade.
I'm sorry, what are you whispering at me?
Nothing.
League of Legends had its glory years at a time when I had unlimited free time, but once I grew up and got a real life and responsibilities, the idea that 1 or 2 games a night I had to play would have a 75% chance of someone leaving or throwing just made League not worth it. Whether I won or lost, it didn't matter. I could still enjoy the competitive outlet of League. Unfortunately, the game has evolved so much that most nights all my time was spent trying to just get into a game itself and hope that once I was finally playing, someone didn't rage quit. There were many nights where I would turn off my computer, go to sleep, and realize I never even made it past the 20-minute mark in a single game, and I just wasted all my free time standing in a digital line, basically. Despite all that, every single year I still convince myself to give League another chance, play it for a week, and uninstall it. Trendy games pop up every now and then that would waste a few bucks and kill a couple hours and let me catch up with my friends. And that's always nice, but it's not sustainable to keep buying a new game every week or two once that survival game gets old or the gaming population is on to the next trend. Unfortunately, some of my favorite games I've ever played require the same amount of time as a full-time job to properly enjoy it, so those are out as well. I have 234 games in my Steam library, but one single game has more hours in it than the majority of my library combined. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Turning on my PC to relax has nearly become synonymous with the Elder Scrolls franchise. Since middle school, as a 13-year-old coming home and turning on my Xbox 360 to lose myself in Oblivion, roaming the countryside of Cyrodiil, exploring every single inch of that game. I couldn't tell you my middle school history teacher's name, but I can explain every faction quest line from Oblivion with extreme detail, explain the in-depth intricacies of the leveling system, and well, literally anything you'd like to know about it, frankly. Skyrim might be even worse. While Oblivion came around at a more impactful time in my life, I've now been playing Skyrim consistently since its release. I could write a much better and detailed report on the fictional civil war of Skyrim than the real-life one that occurred in the country I call home. Not proud of that, but that's the truth. I do really enjoy other fantasy RPGs as well, and I will tell just about anyone who listens how great of a game Kingdom Come Deliverance is. One of the first videos I ever posted was claiming that it's a better game than Skyrim, which I kind of stand by, but that doesn't mean I want to play it more than Skyrim. I own every single Dark Souls game in the series. Haven't played more than 2 hours of any of them. I'm sure I'd love them. Elden Ring has better gameplay mechanics than Skyrim. Kingdom Come has a richer storyline, but the Elder Scrolls have the ability to be greater than the sum of its parts. That might not even be a fair way to describe it, honestly. The Elder Scrolls are an embarrassment of riches. So many characters I could be, stories that could be lived out. I can disappear into a new character, but inside a world that I'm intimately familiar with after 2 decades of playing within the world of Tamriel. And there it was. I can disappear into a world that I'm intimately familiar with. I think back now to myself as a teenager, door closed, laying on my bed, Xbox 360 controller in hand. I'm in my room, but mentally I am gone. I beat every single faction quest line, did every side quest I could find in Oblivion. I had my comically large guidebook next to me that I would pour through like an explorer reading through an ancient tome trying to discover the secrets of a lost civilization. This was serious business, and it removed me from the real world. At the time, I just loved Oblivion. It was my first true RPG, and I was infatuated. I loved everything about it. The races, the quests, the artwork between loading screens, the sound the menu makes when you flip through the pages. At the time, I was a teenager that was seemingly really getting into video games. Now looking back, I know when I started playing Oblivion was when my parents' marriage started to fall apart. Less than a year later, I'm 14, sitting in an apartment alone while my mom is at work. My dad is at my childhood home. I honestly don't remember a ton from that time, but I do remember sitting in my room with an 18-inch TV, an Xbox 360 on top of my dresser, and my dog curled up on the bed next to me playing Oblivion. At an unstable time, it provided familiarity and a feeling of control. I know the outcome to all of these quests, but that didn't matter. I could approach the game any way I wanted, but the outcome was probably going to be the same. I felt in control, and probably the only thing in my life that I had any control over was my character here on this 18-inch screen. Obviously, I wasn't thinking of any of that as a 14-year-old, but now I can see clearly I was using Oblivion as kind of a coping mechanism, or just a form of escapism that gave me a sense of agency, control, and stability I was missing in the real world. And I'm so unbelievably thankful it was there for me. My parents did reconcile, by the way, after a year or so. So, as dramatic as it may sound, Oblivion got me through that time where I felt alone and out of place. I had somewhere consistent to go that was just comforting. I recently listened to a podcast where comedian Bobby Lee had the creator of Stardew Valley on as a guest. If you don't know what Stardew Valley is, it gets typecasted as a cozy game, but truly just imagine the most comforting thing you could imagine, from the art style, the music, the gameplay loop, and love him or hate him. During this interview, Bobby Lee was painfully honest about what the game meant to him.
My therapist said it was on the thing, and she goes, "You need help." And I go, "What do you mean?" She's like, you're using it as a coping mechanism, right? Because it's so, I give you a prime example of what Stardew Valley feels to me to a TV show. The Great British Bake Off. That show gives me the same feeling as I get at Stardew Valley. It's like something I didn't get at home. So at my house, it was violent. There was a lot of physical abuse. There were a lot of dark things happened growing up, okay? And so when I play Stardew, it's like, and watch Great British Bake Off, that's what I feel like my home should have felt like.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Where it's like warm and there's trust. What also like Stardew is like, you know Emily's gonna be there. You know, on Friday night, Sam and Sebastian are gonna be playing pool at the bar.
Right.
And so you can rely on these characters that you love. You know that your kids are gonna be there and your wife is gonna give you a gift. And I also know what I'm gonna give her. It gives me a sense of, it soothes me.
Stability.
Yeah, my trauma. It soothes my trauma.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so, games like this is so important, because I think I've talked to a lot of people that play Stardew. They use it as a tool of therapy. It really is a masterful done game, and I think it does more. You know what I mean? I think certain TV shows and movies do more than just, added entertainment. I think it's therapeutic almost in a weird way.
Watching this, I realized that I have been doing this with media since I was a teenager. I have my 3 TV shows I'd watch over and over again after a long day. The Office, Arrested Development, King of the Hill. Whenever I get sick, I am going to watch the entirety of the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. And when I have a long day and can finally sit down at my desk, I'm probably going to play Skyrim. Now don't get me wrong, I do play other games and I try new games on occasion, but so often I just don't have the mental bandwidth to start something new. When the day has been spent moving from one problem to the next, the idea of starting something completely new can feel exhausting. As silly as that sounds, saying a video game or a TV show is exhausting, but sometimes that's how it feels. With playing that comfort game or watching that comfort show, there is low cognitive load. My brain can enter autopilot and I can get lost and just put away the world outside these doors for a little while. While Oblivion is what started my adventure into the Elder Scrolls universe, Skyrim came along and took the reins. Skyrim was released when I was 16. When I was in high school, I despised being there and ended up having quite a few health struggles. Nothing major, but I just had a really hard time staying healthy and was constantly sick and missing school. In retrospect now, I was clearly struggling mentally and was likely depressed, and I would allow sickness like a cold to spiral something worse into my head and just spend days stuck at home. I spent a lot of time in my room, and during that sickness, Skyrim was what comforted me on those long days sitting alone, hoping to feel better. The game has been there for me from a teenager to a 20-year-old working, unsure what to do with myself, to now a married man with kids. And once the kids are asleep, I slip into my office and enter into that world I've been visiting since I was a kid. So that's all great and wonderful, but what makes the Elder Scrolls, and I would say Skyrim in particular, different than the myriad of other adventure RPGs out there? There are games of the same genre with better stories, better fighting mechanics, or more in-depth RPG elements. Despite all of that, they don't make me feel the way that Skyrim does. I was trying to think of a way to describe it, and it's not a blank canvas, because I don't think any game really is. In order for it to be a video game, there must be some backbone and structure. My wife has an adult coloring book. She likes to paint or color in while watching Gilmore Girls. Peak, cozy, low cognitive load activity. That's Skyrim for me, an adult coloring book. It has lines that have to be colored in. In fact, those lines can be beautiful and complex, or even at times simple and plain, but how I choose to fill the space in between them is entirely up to me. I can beat the entirety of the game as the ideal Dragonborn, shouting and slashing my way across the entirety of Skyrim. I can also beat the game by punching everyone down with my fists if I want to. Nowadays, when I play, I just roleplay super heavy, and I might play as a farmer, a hunter, a craftsman, and never even touch the main quest line or faction quest line. The drawing is there, but how I choose to color it in is entirely up to me. It can be messy and chaotic or extremely simple. There is comfort in the structure of the world and joy in the creative freedom that can be found inside of it. What's funny is if I were to describe the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim to someone who had never heard of it and I told them, well, there is an army of dragons trying to consume the world and your character is learning to yell at them really loud to kill them. Also, there's a civil war going on in the country about religion over whether there should be 8 or 9 gods. Oh, also there is 16 Daedric princes, which are essentially like demons that just kind of like to screw with people. There's a cult of assassins. There's a criminal syndicate. There is a group of vampires trying to destroy the sun. There are bandits trying to kill you on every corner. And it's just the coziest, most comforting game I think I've ever played. They would think I was a crazy person, but it's true. I'm sure I didn't feel this way on my first playthrough. At the time, there was so much mystery and intrigue that the game was holding a secret around every corner, just waiting for me to find it. There are a multitude of factors that make Skyrim so comforting and beautiful. While I aesthetically find the environment and world of Oblivion nearly intoxicating, with its rolling green hills, lush, beautiful forests, idyllic homes, and countryside, it is quintessential fantasy. Skyrim, in comparison, is dark and moody. It's gray and foggy, sometimes downright gloomy. Other times it's breathtaking. When you reach that vantage point where the snow-covered peaks crest in the distance while a flowing river divides the landscape and massive evergreens try to pierce the clouds, it's mesmerizing. There is beauty in the contrast. When I'm traversing the bitter white north of Skyrim, there is a sense of relief when I can finally see a town in the distance, or traversing through the thick woods surrounding Falkreath and the fog finally breaks and sunlight pierces through the timber and you can see Lake Ilinalta shimmering in the distance, and I feel like I can breathe again. On top of all of this, the score is underlining every moment. The soundtracks for Oblivion and Skyrim are a delight in every way possible. They are understated and unintrusive, a perfect accompaniment to the world. The music has just as much right to be there as the sound of the wind wrestling in the trees or the sound of a hammer crashing into the anvil at the forge. The soundtrack of Oblivion and Skyrim have become so embedded in my mind that I even listen to them outside of playing the game. I can fairly often find myself basically overdosing on podcasts while working or driving, that at times I find myself needing a detox. In my head, I feel like I'm learning or being entertained, but most of the time it's just an onslaught of words bouncing around in my brain that I'm not really absorbing, and I'm just getting overstimulated. I put on the Elder Scrolls soundtrack and a sense of calmness washes over. I feel like I can think again. And I find myself, instead of ignoring my thoughts, I address them and work through them, all while scored by music that is nostalgic and comforting. Over time, my opinion has flip-flopped about Skyrim's skills, combat, and leveling system. When I first played Skyrim, coming from Oblivion, I was super disappointed with the loss of attributes. Now, Oblivion's leveling system clearly needed some changes, but it felt like Bethesda really took away from the uniqueness you could give a character. They really simplified some of the RPG elements that help make your character totally unique, but by doing so, they made the game significantly easier to play and continue playing, and I never really appreciated that up until recently. I can create a heavy armored Imperial soldier and decimate my way through the Stormcloaks and dragons, and at level 20 decide, hey, I think I want to be an assassin now. It could be hard at first, leveling up your sneak, but you aren't prevented from transitioning your character to whatever playstyle you want by arbitrary classes like many RPGs. There are many times when I enjoy the restrictions because I think it can help you build a much deeper character. But Skyrim, so much of the game is just about how easy it is to hop in and play. I had a period of time where I saw this almost as a negative. Like the game mechanics weren't deep enough and rich enough for my taste, but now I'm thankful it doesn't feel like a chore to start a new character or changing an already made character's trajectory. And I won't harp on it for too long, but I don't think you can really talk about Skyrim's longevity without mentioning mods. It just makes the game infinitely replayable for myself, that I can continually upgrade the visuals of the game each year so it never feels outdated. When there are aspects of the game I no longer enjoy, I can add a mod to remove them, or now I can enable survival mode to increase the role-playing mechanics. There's a near endless world of mods out there that allow each player to craft Skyrim into their ideal version of the game. Now, I'll be honest, all these strange coping mechanisms I do to deal with anxiety or depression were completely subconscious. It wasn't until hearing the statement I started the video with. People struggling with anxiety or depression tend to play the same games and rewatch the same TV shows over and over again. Did all this click in my head of, oh, I do that all the time. I'm so thankful for what this game series has done for me. As weird as it sounds, they have been there for me. From a self-conscious teenager with separated parents to battling health issues, the monotonous grind of trying to find yourself as a 20-year-old, to becoming a husband, then becoming a dad, the loss of my best friend, all of that time, one constant was going on, and that was the Elder Scrolls. Those fleeting moments where no matter what was going on in my life at the time, I could almost put everything on pause and escape to somewhere else, even if just for a few minutes. I didn't realize how badly I needed that in my life until reflecting on it now. This game series saved me in ways I never even realized by providing that place where I could shed anything that was trying to drag me down and just for a moment catch my breath. So, to the Elder Scrolls, thank you. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Something a little different. Trying to do a bit of a just love letter, I suppose, to the Elder Scrolls, because they really do mean a lot to me. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe so I can post more of these videos. I appreciate you guys.